What's up, degenerates? This is Locked In, and I'm your host, Mason Cameron, at PFF_Mace on Twitter. And unfortunately, not with me today, traveling due to the holiday, my co-host and partner in crime, Vishaal Gupta, sends all of his love. But what's up with you guys tonight? How are you guys doing? How are you living? We have a good slate of games to break down. We're also going to break down the craziness from the Thanksgiving slate. At least some craziness in the early games. The middle one's not quite so much there. But anyway, still a good day of football yesterday. Had a decent game just a minute ago end with the Vegas Raiders and the Chiefs ending not too long ago. And apologies to everybody who was dealing with our iffy schedule. We were supposed to go live on Wednesday, but unfortunately, I was quite a bit under the weather. And so we decided to try to move it back just a little bit. So I hope you guys didn't miss us too much. We had some pretty good stuff going in this week. So make sure you check us out on the Discord for all of my picks, all of Vishaal's picks. And we're going to break down into some of those tonight too. So without further ado, we can hop in and check out the Thanksgiving slate. It wasn't a terrible way to start. Oh, whoops. I'm giving spoilers for some of my picks later. You guys hold the phone on those. But we start with the matchup between the Bears and the Lions. And it actually ended up being a pretty good one towards the end there. And of course, the Bears found some way to lose it 20-23 in favor of the Lions. The Lions, however, did not cover, so it was not a good look for them, but that was their first win on Thanksgiving in the Dan Campbell era. So they shucked that bad mojo, and now they're back to it. Unfortunately, this one went on the under by not too much. I felt like it could have probably gone over, but of course, the Bears laid a goose egg in the first half there. Something we didn't quite expect, given that they'd been a little bit improved on offense, which we'll get into a little bit later. But man, Detroit just kind of coasted to a win here. This game got closer at the end than it really seemed. They kind of just took their foot off the gas, but Chicago, like I said, 0 points in the first half. That's just not going to work. 16-0. And the Lions really didn't look too labored until the end when they had kind of already turned it off. And really the big story of the game, massive blunder with clock management by Matt Eberflus and his staff. I don't really know what to make of it personally. It's just one issue in a long line of issues that team has had at the coaching level in terms of ineptitude in managing the clock and managing game situations. They've been right there at the end of a number of these games in recent weeks. And actually, this game is another one to prove it. They're 2-0-1 against the spread since Thomas Brown became the OC. And that's because their offense is now doing something, frankly, and that wasn't what they were having for a long time. And now Thomas Brown will become the interim head coach after Matt Eberflus was fired this morning. And in a slightly odd situation where the team actually allowed Eberflus to talk to the media beforehand. That's not something you usually see if they were expecting to fire the coach not more than a few hours later. So a little bit of an odd situation. So in the matter of just a few weeks, Thomas Brown has gone from the team's passing game coordinator to the interim OC to now the interim head coach. And that is going to be his tryout, essentially, his view of, or the team's view of what he can do at the helm of this team as this job becomes open in January, roughly. Well, I guess technically it's open right now, but still, this is going to be a pretty sought after job. Not many jobs out there are going to be possessing quality playmakers on offense, as well as a young quarterback to build around. As we've seen, a lot of the success from championship teams and playoff caliber teams has been building around cost-effective quarterback play. As soon as those quarterbacks get into their extended price ranges, it really drags down these teams. So one thing that you're going to want is to build around a really talented quarterback like Caleb Williams. And he's seen marked improvements over his time with Thomas Brown at the head. 74.1 PFF passing grade over his last 3. That's not necessarily super high up there, but it's an improvement over the 50 and 60 grades that he was producing prior. And honestly, a positive step forward. Now, this wasn't his most efficient game. He only had a 55.8 adjusted completion percentage. And I know that he had, I think, what was 300 yards. So he didn't perform necessarily horribly, but not in an efficient manner to give this team the ability to stay in it early. They really had to claw their way back 13 points in the fourth quarter. I don't know what else to tell you in terms of that, but otherwise, fairly good in terms of his time with Thomas Brown, coming off 2 of his top 3 graded games as a pro. So that's something you like seeing moving forward. We're going to see exactly how well they do. And I really wish V was here so I could talk to him about this, but something I've been talking about in some closer circles is that Ben Johnson is going to be up for this job potentially. And it would be interesting if he were to go to the team after he was the one that essentially got the last regime fired. Anyway, just an interesting storyline to follow as we head into the coaching carousel search, which is going to heat up in the next few weeks as more and more teams probably find themselves out of playoff contention or struggling for playoff contention. And we're going to see more interesting aspects play out all around the league. And I can't wait to see it happen. So the next game we had on the list here, though, the Giants headed into Dallas. And what has happened to Dallas? Dallas looks like a brand new team. It's kind of incredible. They are completely revamped on defense, which is something we'll get into here in a second. They hosted the Giants here in this one and won 27 to 20. Total for this game was 38.5. They went over that by a good chunk there and covered 3.5, 4 roughly, depending on where you got it. In Dallas, I mean, what else can we say about them? They might be playing their best ball all year right now. No Dak Prescott. They did just get Micah Parsons back, and that's a pretty big reason why, but kind of limited offensively still, yet they're producing with Cooper Rush back there. This is their second straight cover in a row, and they took their foot off the gas in this one. This one was not close at all. 27-10 heading into the fourth quarter. Another one of those games that really they just fell asleep on it at the end and luckily survived. 7 points is obviously a very sizable margin, but this one was not even close at all from bell to bell. So the big thing is that Dallas, like I said, they looked great on defense. They racked up 8 sacks, 69.6% pass rush win rate, which is incredible. They had 3 players with a 90+ pass rushing grade from PFF, 3+ sacks and 3+ hits from Micah Parsons. That's an incredible rate from a guy who missed a few weeks with an ankle injury, has come back and really revamped this entire defense. Having one key pass rusher is huge. It's something that we talk about a little bit on this show, is that when you have that one key, or when you're trying to build a pass rush, you really want that one key pass rusher that's going to help command extra attention and still win, as well as being able to use it a versatile way to take pressure off of other dudes where they free up. And that's what happened here. A lot of guys got involved in it, and it was a pretty good performance all around from Dallas's pass rush. Deron Bland, he comes back 2 weeks in a row. He's not, picking off the ball or, running into the end zone like he was last season, but he's playing quality coverage, and it has boosted this secondary to being relatively respectful, and they were good in this one too. DeMarvion Overshown, I don't know that I've ever seen a more ranging athletic play from the linebacker position than to chip a running back, to tip the ball to himself, lay out for it, stay on his feet, and run into the end zone. An incredible play, and really completely deflated this Giants team early on. And while they still had 10, and it was a close game in the first half, wasn't too much close after that. So a good performance from Dallas. I don't know what we're going to get from Dallas to head forward. It's going to be really interesting because they're going to have some matchups. Let me actually look at who they have coming up here, and we'll just kind of talk about that for a second. So they have a game with the Bengals next week, Carolina, Tampa, Philly, and Washington. So not necessarily an easy schedule. They're probably going to be getting points in most of these games. Probably not. That sounds really weird to say, but they might be laying points on the road at Carolina. Even though Carolina has been improved, it's going to be interesting. But they're going to find themselves gifted points in most of these games. And depending on how far they're gifted, it might be a place to target. Now, off the top of my head, I'm not exactly sure where we would want to go. I don't know if Cincinnati next week is going to be one that we're going to want to. It looks like some look-ahead lines are at +6 for Dallas. I think if that were to move into the 7 range, you might want to get on that. But that's going to take some line movement throughout the week. So we're going to have to see and monitor them moving forward and see if they might be a team to attack. On the other hand, the Giants are looking pretty dead in the water and not a lot going for them. Honestly, it's an embarrassing look for Joe Schoen in this team to sign a quarterback and then put him on the practice squad to play safety. I don't know that I've ever seen anything like that in my time. Somebody can tweet me and let me know, no, Neck, you're an idiot. And this is what really happened. But I think that this whole regime is probably going to be turned over by the season's end. So this one's not really looking great for them. Not much opportunity to bet them moving forward, I would imagine. Let me even look at their look-ahead schedule. New Orleans, Baltimore, Atlanta, Indy, and Philly. Not sure I want to take them, even though they're going to be sizable dogs in pretty much all of these. Too many issues at the quarterback position. Tommy DeVito hurt. Drew Lock doing Drew Lock things. Not necessarily playing efficiently or within the offense. So just not a lot going for them right now. Ball security continues to be an issue. They give the ball up a lot, and it is hard to win in this league when you give the ball up a lot. So that is where we stand with that. The next game we had on the slate. I did not realize it was going to be snowing as much and as windy as it was. I knew it was going to be cold, but unfortunately, that played all the difference in this matchup in Green Bay with the Miami Dolphins taking on the Green Bay Packers. 17-30 game here. The Dolphins just never looked comfortable. The Pack got out to a pretty sizable lead. What does it say? 24-3 in the first half. It felt like even worse watching it. I don't recall off the top of my head how big it got to, but obvious storyline of the game, Dolphins in the cold. And it's unfortunate because they really hit their stride in the last few weeks after getting Tua back. But unfortunately, this has been a tagline for them almost every December and late November, is that as soon as it starts getting really cold, they kind of teeter off and they flounder out, I guess. Not to make the fish joke there. But anyway, so they snapped a 4-game cover streak. It's not really a good look for them. Tua in cold weather, it just continues to be an issue. 0-8 when the temperature is below 45 degrees. And just to look at some of the games that they're going to have in some cold weather situations moving forward, they are going to be playing at the end of the season in Cleveland and in New York. Otherwise, only other road game they're going to have is going to be at Houston. So obviously not a weather issue. And then they host the Jets again and San Francisco. So they close out the year with 2 cold weather games, and potentially, if they put together some wins here, their playoff lives on the line. And not that they're that close in it anyway, but it's a long shot and it might fall apart down the stretch. Otherwise, they were improved on both sides of the ball, which is a shame. So that's not something we want to see. But Green Bay, they cover their second straight, which is a positive note after about a month of dropping covers. But I'm not sure that you want to buy Green Bay just yet, even though this was a pretty commanding lead against what was supposed to be a strong Dolphins team. Both of these wins and covers are just a little bit fluky. So last week, they covered against the Brock Purdy-less 49ers, which we all know how important Brock Purdy has been to that team. He literally held them together through all of their other injuries, and this was just way too much for them to take. And then you have this cold weather game against the Dolphins. So I would just tread lightly watching them moving forward. They are going into Detroit next week. So this is going to be a big game. They're going to be probably about, right now, it looks like the look ahead line is 5.5. I could definitely see that swinging. People are going to want to take Detroit on anything that's under a touchdown. If you start getting it up above a touchdown range, you might debate taking Green Bay. They haven't been overly effective in pretty much any offensive. Well, that makes it sound bad that they've been bad. They haven't been. They've been fairly middling in most things. They're not really blowing the doors off of anybody in any one facet of the game right now, which is kind of evidenced by them winning a lot of really close games. It's like a similar situation to the team we're going to talk about here in a second with the Chiefs, which I actually have to bring up here because I don't have them on my board. Since the game ended not too long ago in kind of odd fashion. But things have been going their way. They've been winning on late games, close games against quality opponents. That's something that you want to see where a team is resilient moving forward, but it's something you want to measure. Like I said, we can look at their forward, look forward into their schedule. They have 3 road games to close out the season. We're looking at one in Detroit, one in Seattle, and one in Minnesota. Those are tough places to play. Now, Seattle hasn't been necessarily the best team lately, but they continue to put out a lot of noise there in Seattle. Not going to be necessarily the easiest place to play. And then we have games at New Orleans and Chicago, which is a team we talked about earlier. They're looking to prove some stuff. They're not just going to go away and fall asleep on a Packers team that they hate to close out the season, even if they're trying to play spoiler or even if their playoff hopes are dead. They're going to want to try to play spoiler. So this is going to be a tough stretch of games for a team that is 9-3. Like, this isn't a bad team. They are very good, but a lot of these wins are coming from close calls, and they do need to figure some things out. So that does it on that. I actually, give me a second here, you guys. Sorry, I'm going to have to go to our friends over at Betting Pros. If you guys aren't over there on Fantasy Pros, Betting Pros, all of the guys over at Important Nonsense are involved in Betting Pros. They're an awesome partner with us, and you can get the consensus rankings from both Jason and Neil and a bunch of the guys over here at Fantasy Pros. So make sure you check them out. And a lot of cool shopping around. So something that we tell you guys all the time is make sure you shop around because you can get a live look at all of the lines here on Betting Pros, and it's really helpful, actually. So here we go. The game we all just watched. Las Vegas heads into Kansas City and just nearly takes down the Chiefs. I'm not even going to lie. I don't exactly know the final play or how this one ended because I was head down trying to prep for some things, looked away, and all of a sudden they weren't in field goal range anymore. So, or the game was over and the field goal opportunity was gone. So if somebody saw and wants to inform me about what just happened before I go watch the All 22 later tonight, please let me know. But I don't know what to make of this. The Chiefs keep chiefing. 19-17, nearly lost this one. Vegas in field goal range towards the end of the game, and obviously don't come away with it. Something that really would have sent a shot to this Chiefs team. Frankly, it still should send a shot to this Chiefs team because when we look at what they've had, I think this marks their 6th potential game that was decided on the final play. Well, I guess this one was decided earlier than that because they didn't make the field goal. But anyway, decided on the final plays. They had 5 of them, I think, leading up to last week. So I don't know what else to make of this. Everything seems to bounce their way. And even though they are right there in that kind of middling range in a lot of facets, they continue to win games. They're clutch, well coached, great quarterback, and a strong defense when they want to. So, something that we need to look for is who can potentially take them down. 11-1, obviously very strong, but something that we have noticed is that they aren't quite as strong against the spread. Only 4-7-1. The Raiders actually had a better against the spread record than them here at 5-7. And what we see here, the Chiefs, 13.5-point favorites. They continue to be sizable favorites every single week and play these close games. When I look at it down here, they actually have not covered a game since week 7, midway through October. So this Chiefs team is 6 straight failed covers, and a lot of those are covers by more than 7 points. They were 8.5 points the last time they faced this Raiders team in Las Vegas. They did not cover that. That was a 7-point win, 27-20. Another close game here. This was a 13.5 point. They had another 8.5 point against Tampa, 7 against the Broncos, and 11 on the road against Carolina. They're going to continue to get sizable spreads, and that's going to be an opportunity for us to make money against them, even against teams that you might not expect. They have matchups to close out the season. They have one with the Chargers next week in primetime. That's going to be one to watch, as something we're going to talk about here in a little bit. The Chargers are real, and a lot of it makes them a scary team down the stretch. They have a game against Houston, one against the Steelers, and another one on the road against Denver. Actually, both of those games on the road at Pittsburgh and on the road at Denver to close out their year. Something that's going to be able to watch on the lines moving forward for them. And then, unfortunately, Vegas is, they've been dead in the water for a little while, but they're going to look a lot worse moving forward. Possibly looking at a coaching change that hasn't necessarily been in the rumor mill, but this isn't a good look as they close out on 2-10 through the first 4 or through 3 quarters of the season. So that's an unfortunate look for them. Game total on this one, though, 42.5, well under that. And let me actually look at what the Chiefs have been doing in terms of totals. Quite a bit of unders, obviously. They have low totals pretty much every week, 42, 43, 42. Not very many of their totals reach over 45. They're hitting over on a few of them, but under on quite a few of them too. They continue to just middle along and get by. I would say that this would be a team to target against moving forward. It's something that we'll talk about in Chop It Up with V when V gets back next week, as I'm sure it's going to be a contentious topic through a lot of NFL media in the days to come. So we will see how that one goes. Now, on to our picks for the week, and I have a really light slate just because I felt like we should cover what we learned from the 4 Thanksgiving and Black Friday games, but we have some pretty solid matchups heading into this one. We have an AFC North matchup with some playoff implications, at least in terms of what Cincinnati is hoping to do coming out of their bye. So the Steelers head into Cincy to take on the Bengals. And like I said, the Bengals are fighting for their playoff lives, and somehow in this one, carry a clean 3-point favorite on the point spread. I'm not quite sure why Oddsmakers continue to lay points with Mike Tomlin in the Steelers, but we're going to keep taking it, and we're going to take some money off of it. I know. We'll get into the fact that this is a divisional game, but I have a reason why I'm shucking the divisional game narrative, where those games continue to be closer. And even if they do continue to be closer, that's why you don't want to take favorites in these games. You want to take points when you can. And frankly, I am not against at all taking Pittsburgh on the money line right here at plus 140. The fact that we are getting a clean 3. So on a neutral field, they would consider this a pick'em between Pittsburgh and Cincinnati. I just don't know that I trust that. Pittsburgh 8-3 against the spread. one of the highest cover rates in the NFL, top 3. And it's a lot of times because Oddsmakers keep laying points with this team when they shouldn't. 4-0 as a dog. They are 4-2 against the spread on the road as well. So they play well on the road. They play well when they get points. So, yes, I understand they just snapped a 5-game win and cover streak last week. Snow games are fairly fluky, and that one was as snowy as it could get. Everybody's calling it the snow globe game. But I don't think we should put too much stock into that. As well, this was kind of a trap game, and I talked about it heading into the week that they could be looking forward to a difficult schedule they had coming up, which included this game against Cincinnati. Now that they got that trap game out of the way, I see this being a very pissed off team heading into their tough stretch of schedule, which includes this Bengals team and the high-powered offense that Joe Burrow puts out. But they are also coming off extra rest. I said Cincinnati is coming out of their bye. Well, Pittsburgh hasn't played since last Thursday. They're getting some rest. And I know that this is a divisional game, but like I said, they're not going to get caught sleeping 2 games in a row. They're going to be waked up. They're going to be woken up and alert for this one. So I would definitely side with what Pittsburgh is doing. And a lot of it comes down to really just how bad Cincinnati's kind of been in betting markets. They're 6-5 against the spread, which is fine, which is reasonable. They're 1-4 at home against the spread. 4-3 as a favorite, 1-3 as a home favorite. So it is not looking terribly good for them. And against quality opponents this year as a home favorite, week 8, Philly, they were -2.5. They lost by 20. Week 3, Washington, -7, lost by 5. Week 1 against New England, not a quality opponent, -7.5, lost by 6. So not only are they not covering some of these games, they are losing them. And I know the narrative of first half of the season really prevails with this Cincinnati team because they picked it up offensively and they're still a good offense, but they're not good on defense, and it continues to suffer for them. The offense is still very strong. Like I said, top 8 in EPA per play, but that's not good enough against a team like Pittsburgh, who matches up very well with them and is a top 4 EPA per play defense allowed. So it's something got to give. And with how bad this defense has been, I just don't know. The Cincinnati D is 30th in EPA per play allowed and has allowed 34 or more in 3 of their last 4. The only game that they did not allow more than 30 points in was to Las Vegas, and they allowed 24. One of Vegas's only games over 20 all season. They've only had a handful, and this was one of them. So still a subpar performance, and honestly puts them behind the 8 ball in this one. I don't know that I see many opportunities for Cincinnati to take this one, but it will remain a close game. NFC North are always hard-fought games. I just don't think the Pittsburgh Steelers are going to get caught sleeping in this one. And giving them points, laying points with Mike Tomlin has always been a positive for this team. I know V's going to be taking this one, so make sure you guys watch for V's picks in the Discord this week. I mean, I don't know for a fact, but I have it on good faith that he's going to take Tomlin's boys. These are one of his favorite bets. This is a Vishaal Gupta exclusive. You guys can't miss. So the next game and final game that we're going to be breaking down for the week. Like I said, we have a light slate for the show this week, but we have the full array of picks in the Discord. So make sure you hit us up there. We're going to have, let me see, I think it's 12 games on, or 11 games on Sunday, and then the Monday night game. We have plenty. Like I said, we always have the primetime picks in there. You can hit us up, get all your picks, and see what we have to say about anything that you're betting as well this week. We'll give you our opinion on it. But the next game that I'm targeting that I feel like is just a can't miss is the Los Angeles Chargers heading into Atlanta to take on the Falcons. This Chargers team is for real, and especially against betting spreads, or against betting markets. I know that this team just lost the Harbaugh Bowl, but that was not a easy team to face, frankly. And I know that they didn't have the offensive points that they wanted against a subpar Baltimore secondary, but we still have to take it with a grain of salt that this team has been very good over the last month and just all season long, especially in betting markets. So they're 7-3-1 against the spread, 7-1 as the favorite, and 3-1 as a road favorite. This game has moved quite a bit. When you get into these 1 point kind of areas, try to shop around. You might find some book that's a little bit slow to the change, and you might be able to get some closing line value there. But at -1, not a bad look at all, and I'm more than willing to take it, and not that far off on the money line, it looks like, as well, at -114 if you just want to take them to win. But I think this is going to be a pretty solid and secure win, as this Chargers team is good on both sides of the ball. Top 8 in both offense and defense overall grades by our friends over at PFF. And a lot of that's been because Justin Herbert has just been absolutely phenomenal. Over that span, he has the top passing grade in the NFL. It started to slide a little bit, though, so it's something that we do want to watch moving forward. He tallied 3 turnover-worthy plays over just his last 2 games, and that was after going the previous 4 games without one. So it's something to monitor moving forward, but frankly, I don't know that this opponent is going to even matter. This is the same Falcons team that, while they're coming off a bye and they're rested, just allowed 6 to Denver. Bo Nix had his best day as a pro. He was fantastic and had anything that he wanted. Now, Bo Nix has been much, much improved, and he's a solid player who's starting to get a foundation, his feet under him, which is something we like to see. But Justin Herbert is a guy who has a solid foundation and continues to excel with it. He's been phenomenal. So something I'm not willing to bet against, especially with Atlanta's secondary not really being that stout, playing that sticky coverage, and their pass rush just really not getting after quarterbacks at a very high rate. So, and when we look at what that's meant for them in betting markets, really hasn't been that solid. 5-6 against the spread, that's fine. But they are 2-4 against the spread at home this year. 1-2 as dogs, and they're 0-1 as home dogs. You only become a home dog when you really do play a solid quality opponent, and they have to give them points. As we just saw with the last game, they might not necessarily give you points if you're a solid opponent and you're playing a team that's better than you. You can still get that in that -3 range. But when you're a home dog, it means you are very much outmatched by a quality opponent, and they've lost. So they're coming off a bye, extra rest. And it's an extra rest advantage considering that the Chargers came off on Monday, or last played on Monday, but I don't think that that's really going to matter in this one. Last week, like I said, 38 against Denver, 38-6 as 2-point dogs, on the road, 32-point game. I think that's all you really need to see. The Falcons actually have talked about how they want to get back to the play action game. That's something Raheem Morris talked about this week. And I get it, because Kirk Cousins has been phenomenal over his career and over the last just 3 seasons in terms of his play action and how he's been able to execute that, and the efficiency and success he's found in schemes that really feature play action. It's something we've kind of talked about this year. They don't do a lot of it. They're dead last in play action dropbacks. And this isn't necessarily an opponent that you want to attack in play action dropbacks. They swarm to the ball, they play within the scheme, and they have, I think it was the top coverage stops on play action passes, 25, I believe. So that's a high number. That means they rally to the ball, they tackle you for short gains, and keep you behind the sticks. That's something that's been Atlanta's problem for weeks now. So something's got to give in this one, and I do not think that it's the LA Chargers. So that does it, though, guys. That is the last game on our slate here. But like I said, that's not the last game we're picking this week. Head over into our Discord, importantnonsense.com. That's how you become a member. And you can ask us any of your betting questions in there, get all of our picks for the week. We had some pretty good stuff for last week. We have some good stuff for the primetime games this week, and some good matchups to hit on in there. So like I said, that does us for week 13. We will be back same time next week, 8 p.m. Eastern on Friday. Again, sorry for the scheduling conflicts for anybody that did want to watch the show. It will still be up on YouTube, so make sure you subscribe to us there. And yeah, usually this is where I ask my co-host Vishaal for any parting words. But Vishaal will be back next week, so make sure you guys tap in for all of his picks. And until next time, everybody, good night and good luck.